Welcome to the Steps to Health 4th grade gardening program. Today's training specifically covers the role of the classroom teacher. I am Lindsay Goolsby and I'm here at NC State University and I'm part of the Steps to Health team. I'm going to give a quick background on Steps to Health. So the Steps to Health 4th grade program is just one of the 8 direct education programs under Steps to Health. Steps to Health is North Carolina State University's SNAP-Ed program, also known as the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program Education. NC State University's SNAP-Ed program, Steps to Health, utilizes county-based nutrition education agents and educators through the Extension program to implement our programs. All of our programs are taught by a 4-H or Family and Consumer Science agent, assistant, or educator. SNAP-Ed is a federally funded program through USDA. The goal is to provide nutrition education to SNAP or food stamp recipients or those who are eligible to receive food stamps or SNAP. For our school programs, we use the free and reduced lunch rate participation at the schools to qualify for program implementation. Steps to Health promotes educating and inspiring limited resource North Carolinians to eat smart and move more through nutrition education programs. The Steps to Health 4th grade program is unique in that it integrates nutrition and gardening. The list of what essential standards and Common Core objectives that the Steps to Health 4th grade program meets is listed in your notebook. Because the program is an integrated nutrition and garden program, there are 3 components to the Steps to Health 4th grade program. Therefore, there are 3 curriculum notebooks. The program has a classroom time component that you will lead students in as the classroom teacher. These assignments and activities can be done during downtime or for homework, and we'll review those in this training today. Here's an overview of the implementation of each component. The nutrition education includes 9 sessions, 1 session a week, and this is taught in the classroom. The garden education component includes a minimum of 3 in-garden sessions that includes planting, harvesting, and garden maintenance. The classroom connection components that you're responsible for coincide with those 9 nutrition sessions and 3 garden sessions. So, a brief overview of the nutrition educator responsibilities and component. There are 9 weekly in-classroom sessions that are about 45 minutes each that are led by the nutrition educator. The nutrition educator leads in the taste test, and students complete worksheets in their student journal during the nutrition education time. The nutrition educator also supports the classroom competitions, which I will cover in more detail in a little bit. There are 3 in-garden sessions that are led by the nutrition educator. And these are really more like mini sessions to help the garden educator engage students while they're in the garden. The garden educator may need a few extra sessions, including prepping the garden, planting, and maintenance in addition to these 3, but they may also coincide. There are writing assignments that allow students to reflect on what they've learned during the nutrition and garden sessions. So we would encourage you to assist in completing those if they weren't completed during those components, and also lead in other classroom activities. There are 2 classroom competitions that you will lead or oversee, and I'll go over those right now. So the Garden Garland competition is a taste test competition among classrooms who are receiving the 4th grade nutrition education garden program. Students who sample the taste test and the nutrition education sessions add a link to the Garden Garland. The teacher assists in assembling the links. If you need scrap paper or colored construction paper, let your nutrition educator know and she can provide them to you. So if a student tastes the taste test in the session with the nutrition educator, then that student would receive a link to write his or her name on it. You may need to assist the students in assembling the chain and the link with the stapler. We would encourage that you would display the chain in the classroom so students could visually see the number of taste tests as the weeks progress. At the end of those 9 nutrition education sessions, the classroom with the most taste test links and their garden garland, they win a prize. And the nutrition educator will bring that prize to your students if you win. The second competition is a walking challenge. And we are asking that the teacher lead students in daily body breaks or that they lead students in walking a designated distance in or near the school. You would calculate the daily, weekly, and monthly steps on the walking log that we provided. Then you would plot on the North Carolina map how far your students walked each week. The map should be in a location for all classrooms to have access to or for them to be able to see. We've included 40 fun facts along Interstate 40 so that you can share historical information about the towns and cities along I-40. The class that walks the furthest in the 9 nutrition education sessions wins a prize, and the nutrition educator will provide that to you if your classroom wins. So this is the log. Each body break that's in the Classroom Connections sessions, they will indicate the conversion to miles. And then you would take that, times that by the number of participants in your classroom, and then that would equate the total classroom miles walked in that activity. At the end of each week, you plot the miles on your map, and the North Carolina map has mile markers, so it makes it pretty easy to determine where or how far you're going. So here's just a list of what the 40 fun facts look like. If you are a city or a town nearby one of these, or you're along 40 and you want to be included, please let your nutrition educator know. We can make an edit. Or if you have a more or a fun fact that's more fun and more interesting than the one listed here, let us know, and we can, again, edit that and incorporate it. So therefore, that's kind of an overview of kind of your role. And I'm going to go in more detail on the Classroom Connection sessions, but I just want to stop for a minute and go over a little bit about program planning. So this writes out in detail program planning for what we see as 3 meetings with you and the nutrition educator and the garden educator. And we have worksheets that kind of break this down. They're not in your spiral bound workbook, notebook. The nutrition educator will provide these to you at the meetings. But I'm going to go over them so you kind of know what to expect. So work together at the planning meeting to go through and complete the dates on this worksheet so that everyone is on the same page. And there are tasks assigned on this worksheet. And that just gets you to begin thinking about how to incorporate some of these pieces, what are the dates, and so forth. So for example, this kind of asks you to think, how are you going to incorporate the walking challenges? When are you going to start them? Do you have a designated area that's safe and accessible for students to walk? Or do you want to work with the PE teacher or school administrative staff to have that mapped out or marked out? It also prompts you to determine with the other classroom teachers, where should you put your North Carolina map so that all students can see it or have access to it as you plot each week. Now, this is something else that may be provided to you with the list of specific dates that the nutrition educator is going to come in and teach the 4th grade gardening program with the nutrition education component. And it also has some information about your role and what their responsibilities are as well. So this may be provided to you in that meeting, or maybe shortly thereafter. The second meeting that we see would be to specifically nail out maybe some dates for the in-garden sessions. And so this is kind of what the form looks like. It, again, lists who all is present and specific tasks and dates assigned to them. The nutrition educator had a scheduling form, and we also have one for the garden educator. So you may also receive this with some details from the garden educator at this meeting or shortly thereafter. The final meeting that we would anticipate would be the plan for the summer, and what is going to be the plan for the garden sustainability over the summer, and who are the key players for that. So this worksheet kind of walks you through that. So that kind of gives you some framework for program planning and the meetings that may occur related to program planning. We also want to give a snapshot of each session and what are the topics, what are the taste tests, what are the handouts, what are the activities. So you'll see that there are 9 lessons for the nutrition educator and kind of all the components that she's responsible for. And then with the classroom teacher, these are pieces that you're responsible for that coincide with those 9 sessions, which carries on to page 2, and then also kind of what are the roles for the nutrition or the garden educator, and then also kind of what are you working with the students that coincide with that. So hopefully this is helpful to kind of give you a snapshot of each session. So we do provide student journals, and this is where they're going to record their taste test experiences as well as the worksheets during the nutrition educator components. The garden educator also has some plant profiles or other worksheets related to their time in the garden. There may be some instances where those worksheets aren't completed with either educator, and it may be asked that the students take it home and do it at home. But there are also components in the student journal that that we would ask you to oversee, such as the writing assignments and other journaling. So I'm going to go through that as it relates to each session. The intent of the student journals is to really allow students to reflect what they've learned and assess what they've learned during all the components. But before I actually go into each session, I kind of want to briefly go over the attendance roster. This attendance roster is very similar for all of our programs, and we do have to collect certain demographic information of our participants for us to report back to USDA. So we need students' full name, their ethnicity, their race, and their gender. So please don't ask students directly for this information. If you don't know, just make a visual assessment. So other than first and last name, we also need the ethnic group of each student. So ethnic group is either A, Hispanic, Latino, or B, non-Hispanic, non-Latino. Each student should have an A or B noted in this column. Also, we need the race of each student. Students can have one number or more than one number, but each number corresponds to a specific race. So number 1 is American Indian, 2 is Asian, 3 is Black African American, 4 Native Hawaiian, and 5 is white. The nutrition educator may ask you to go back and complete any blanks. There should be no blank for ethnicity. Students are either an A or a B. Also, Hispanic is not a race according to the U.S. government census tracking, which is how we are required to report data. So please select an appropriate number or numbers of races. Each time the nutrition educator is coming in and giving a session, they will provide you with the attendance roster, so then you'll just go through and check off who was present at each session. So let's transition to how the classroom connections coincide with the nutrition education and garden education components. Overall, each session for the classroom connections includes the following. You will see that there are objectives for each session in the upper left-hand corner, and these include what the nutrition educator or the garden educator will cover so that you as a classroom teacher know what was taught to the students. The remaining information is specific to the classroom connection time. The writing assignment in the student journal is listed. Also, there is a list of materials that students should be taking home. And there is a list of 1 to 2 classroom activities that are pretty quick, and they reinforce what was taught with the nutrition education session or the garden education session. Then there's a suggested body break that often coordinates with what they're learning. So if you turn to your classroom connection session 1, This first classroom connection coincides with the Nutrition Education Session 1, Growing Our School Garden. The writing assignment is, you have a friend who does not go to your school. Write about your school garden and what your class plans to plant. Tell your friend what you are excited about with growing foods. Explain in 3 to 4 sessions. So students in their student journal have this question already in there, and so then there are some lines for them to fill in what their response is. Also note, in session 1, students will take home a yellow passive consent form. This form should only be returned if parents do not want their student surveys to be evaluated. All students will take the surveys, but we here at NC State will pull out any of the students' information from our database if we received a signed yellow form. And just to clarify, we are a USDA funded project. So we do have to report demographic and outcome information from our programs to USDA. The names of students are not shared and they are kept confidential, similar to a research project. If you have any further questions, please ask your nutrition educator who can contact us. So there are 2 classroom activity suggestions for session 1 with the classroom connections. The first one is if students weren't able to complete the session 1 worksheet with the nutrition educator, they can complete it for homework or finish it in the classroom. There are planting guides at the back of your notebook that provide the information that students need in order to complete the worksheet. Note, the planting guides are region specific. So for example here, Piedmont and coastal region or coastal plain is one type of the planting guide. So there's also a Western planting guide as well. So depending upon the region you live in, you'll give students the planting guide that corresponds with that region. Activity 2, since the students know what they plan to plant, they can decorate rocks or paint sticks with the names of fruits, vegetables, or herbs. You could coordinate this activity with the art teacher. The body break for this session is travel to Tar Heel State. If you do 2 rounds of it, it equals 1 body break, and you times that by the number of students who participated and divide that by 3 to convert to the number of classroom miles walked. Students will act out each statement for 10 seconds, such as hiking the Appalachian. Woo! Hiking the Appalachian Trail, so they will act out hiking for 10 seconds and then act out climbing Mount Mitchell for 10 more seconds, and so on. Plant needs, classroom connection, session 2. The writing assignment, the students have to restate how to care for plants, which they should have learned during the nutrition education session 2. Parent take home is My Pizza Garden. The classroom activity is walking the school grounds and looking at plants and identifying which life cycle stage those plants are in. The students learned in the nutrition education session 2 plant life cycle stages. They can record their observation in their student journal on the journaling page. The body break is the nutrient competition game. So I'm going to go through how to play that game. So the completion of 1 game is only 1 body break equivalent. So you'll need some scraps of blue, red, white, and yellow paper. And if you don't have construction paper or scrap paper that color, let your nutrition educator know and she can provide those to you. So you'll cut them up in 2-inch by 2-inch pieces of paper, and you'll need 20 each of the following: 20 blue, 20 red, 20 white, and 20 yellow. The blue represents water, red represents nitrogen, white represents phosphorus, and yellow potassium. So you'll write each student's name on the board, or you could write it on a scrap piece of paper. So the instructions are to reinforce that plants need light, air, water, nutrients, and space. And plants absorb nutrients like water, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, which are nutrients. They absorb them through their roots in order to grow. So select an appropriate indoor and outdoor location and determine the boundaries of the make-believe garden. This may be hard to do in a classroom with lots of desks. So if you have some space where there's no obstacles such as desks and chairs, that would be probably best suited for this make-believe garden. So you'll divide the classroom into 2 groups. 1 group will be vegetables and 1 group will be weeds. Ask the vegetable students to line up in rows evenly spaced in the garden boundaries. And then asks weeds, the weed students, to not line up, but they can fill in spaces among the vegetables. So they can be really close to the vegetables or in between the vegetables. Very haphazard is probably fine. So instruct students that they will play a game to gain a better understanding of plant competition. So the object of the game is for the weeds and the vegetables to gather as many nutrient squares as they can. Remind students that plants are firmly rooted in the ground and they cannot move. Thus, they cannot move their feet as they reach down and pick up the nutrients. And if they do, they're disqualified. So they can only reach with their arms. So you're going to scatter all those colored paper scraps that represent nutrients. You're going to scatter it all over the garden. And then you're going to call it grow, and the vegetables and the weeds gather as many nutrients as possible in 10 seconds. But remember, their feet or their roots cannot move. They must stay anchored in the ground. So then you're going to count up the number of paper scraps or nutrients that each student gathered, and it can be recorded on the blackboard. Any vegetable or weed that there was a student that did not have at least 2 different nutrients, it dies and is removed from the garden. So then you will erase the tallies of each student's nutrients, and will repeat for 2 more rounds. Count the number of student weeds and vegetables that remain. So then you need to ask the students to reflect. How did they feel about being a weed or a vegetable? And what kept them from getting a higher number of nutrients? Who got more of the nutrients, the vegetables or the weeds? So that should be who is remaining, who's left. Were there more weeds or more vegetables? And then we would also ask that you reiterate that unwanted plants like weeds, they also compete for nutrients and should be removed from the garden. So that concludes the activity, the body break activity for the plant needs classroom connection session 2. So classroom connection number 3, the writing assignment is pretend that there is a vegetable growing in the garden that your classmate has never tried. How would you encourage him or her to try it? Explain in 3 to 4 sentences. The parent take home is the variety of vegetables handout. The body break activity for session 3 is going through the roots, stems, leaves song. Students should act out the motions through the song, and this would count as 1 body break per student. The song you can find online, and we've also provided a lyrics page for the song for students. So session 4 for classroom connection, the writing assignment is consider what might happen if you accidentally planted carrots too close together. Would the carrots get what they needed to grow? Why or why not? Explain in 3 to 4 sentences. The parent take home is spice it up, parent handout. And the classroom activity is plotting the school garden with chalk. So the students should have already completed the anticipated plot for the school garden, and each square on here represents 1 square foot. So with sidewalk chalk and measuring tape or yardstick, have students to go out and measure maybe in a sidewalk or in a parking lot what their school garden would look like. So this incorporates some of that math and also some physical activity. So the body break for this session is called Growing Our Garden. So call out different activities that are listed here for growing in the garden, and students will act out each one, and this would equal 1 body break. So examples would be like loosen the dirt with our trowel. So pretend like we have a trowel and are digging in the dirt, and then digging little holes in the dirt and dropping seeds in holes. So acting that out each activity for 10 seconds, and that equals 1 round of body break. So classroom connection 5, the writing assignment is imagining that you are in charge of making dinner tonight and you want to include each food group in your meal. What foods would you serve and why, and what foods might taste good together? Explain in 3 to 4 sentences. The take home for this session is my plate handout. Students can take what they wrote about in their writing assignment and draw it out on their own MyPlate, and then these can be hung in the cafeteria or the classroom. The body break for this session is food freeze. So the preparation for this. You would have 5 small signs in the following sequence. Sign 1 would be grains. Sign 2, vegetables. Sign 3, fruit. Sign 4, milk. And sign 5, meat and beans or protein. So you need a sign, and you'd write this on one piece of paper for each, and you'd post them in different areas of the classroom. So you're going to get the students to gather in the middle of the room, and you're going to tell the students the name of the game is Food Freeze. Those 5 signs, point them out in the room because they should be all around the room. And there is 1 sign for each food group. And then there are different movements that are written on those signs. So grains mean gallop, vegetables mean skip, fruit means fly, milk means march, and meats and beans mean box. And inform students that when you call it a food, they'll move to the group where they think the food belongs and perform the movement that is written on the sign. So we have a whole list of foods based on the food group. So don't call out necessarily oatmeal and then bread, because those are both part of the grain groups. Call it oatmeal, and all the students should gallop to the grains sign, and then you could call out orange, and all the students would fly to the fruit sign. So they're going to perform the corresponding locomotor skill as they move to this corresponding area. And students who go to the correct location the first time, they do a victory dance or a touchdown dance. So 1 round of the students going to at least one of every sign is 1 round of body breaks. So session 6, the writing assignment is that students have to pretend that they have a friend that only eats cereal, and they need to explain to their friend why they should eat from different food groups. And they should think about what they learned in the session. This session is on nutrients and how important nutrients are, and that eating foods from different food groups gives us the different and variety of nutrients that our bodies need. So the parent handout is supermarket savings for fruits and vegetables. So the activity for this session is that students will probably need a copy of the planting guide, and they're going to assess the crops that are going to be planted in their school garden. So each student or every pair of students doesn't need a whole planting guide. They just need the page with the specific crop with that information on it. So for example, if you know that the students are planting potatoes, they only need that chart related to potatoes to fill out this activity. So you're going to break the students up into 6 groups, so 2 to 3 students in a group, and you're going to assign each group an item, and by item I mean crop, that's going to be planted in the garden. So they should have a poster or a piece of paper that they can decorate with the information about their specific fruit, vegetable, or herb. So they need to draw or write the vitamins and minerals in their specific fruit, vegetable, or herb, and then draw or write how those vitamins and minerals help our bodies. And then the students are going to present it to the rest of the class. So the body break for this one is called choices. And so you're going to inform students that they will be moving to the right or the left very quickly, depending on the choice that they make. And they need to watch out for others so they don't bump into everyone. So you're going to read a choice from the choices list, and then students will respond by going right or left. They cannot stand still. So here's the first scenario for the choices. If you like apples, walk to the left. If you like oranges, walk to the right. So students either like apples, left, or oranges, right. That's the first choice. Second choice is if you hike in the mountains, if you like to do that, slide to the left. If you like to swim at the beach, slide to the right. So there's different movements in addition to the different choices that they have to make. So you're going to go through all those choices, scenarios, and then that would equal 1 body break. And you're going to inform students that all of these are good choices, and all of them include go foods that are everyday foods, as well as go activities, which are activities that we can do every day that are heart healthy. So session 7, the writing assignment is you're going to ask the students to remember or to pretend that their classmate cannot remember what go, slow, and whoa means. So students should write some suggestions on how he or she can remember what go, slow, and whoa means, and then explain which group from go, slow, or whoa should we eat every day and why, and then give examples of the foods or beverages from each group. So again, this is reinforcing what they've learned about go, slow, and whoa foods. So each student should have a piece of paper, and here are the instructions for the activity. So remind students that they are often unaware that they are not eating enough go foods and they are eating too many whoa foods. So have students write down every food and drink that they consumed the day before, and then they need to determine was it a go or a whoa food, and then ask students to count up the total number of foods that they ate. So here's an example. They had milk, cereal for breakfast, and they had a donut. And then for lunch, they had chicken nuggets, French fries, and an apple. And then for dinner, they had beans, rice, and chocolate milk. So for the milk and the cereal, so that's, milk, cereal, donut, chicken nuggets, French fries, apple, beans, rice, and chocolate milk. That would be 9 foods that they ate. Of those 9 foods, they need to count up how many were whoa foods. They had the donut, French fries, chicken nuggets, that's 3, and chocolate milk would be 4. So they had 4 out of 9 of their foods were whoa foods. So then they should determine whether or not they had more whoa or more go foods. In this instance, they had more go foods than whoa foods. And so students should really limit the number of whoa foods they eat every day. And then students would need to write down a substitute for every whoa food they did eat the day before. So instead of the donut, you could have a banana. Instead of chicken nuggets, have baked chicken. Instead of French fries, maybe have a baked potato. Instead of chocolate milk, have regular low-fat milk. So the body break is fast food to go food. So you're going to have students in a large circle, and you're going to ask students what a fast food is. And fast food is really a quick food that's something that they're going to pick up very fast, like drive-through, that sort of thing. And you're going to have some of the students name some fast foods, French fries, hamburgers, chicken nuggets. And then ask if those foods are go, slow, or whoa foods. Because fast foods are usually high in fat, salt, and added sugar, they are considered whoa foods. And this is information that they would have already learned with a nutrition educator. So tell the students that they should skip, hop, or slide clockwise in the circle. So you're going to call out a food, and if the food is a go food, students will march quickly around the circle, 1 full lap. Then call another food. If the food is a whoa food, then students will march very slowly around the circle, 1 lap. And then students can jog, hop, or jump in place until someone can think of a go food substitute or alternate for that whoa food that was fast food. And then you would call out another food. Continue playing till you've gone through all the foods. And there's a chart here that can help you call out some of the foods and the substitutions. So session 8 for the nutrition educator lesson that coincides with a classroom connection. Pretend that you are going to teach a family member on how to read a food label. This is the writing assignment. And you're going to teach them how to find added sugar. So the writing assignment is getting students to teach and write out how to find added sugar on a food label and to list some common names for sugar. And then students should list go beverages that do not have added sugar. And again, this reinforces what they've already learned with the nutrition educator. So the classroom activity is serving size sugar shock. So go ahead and have a scrap piece of paper for students, or they could write this in the journaling piece of their student journal. And they're going to use their Sugar Sleuth worksheet in their student journal. So students should determine the number of calories and the number of grams of sugar if they consumed 2 servings of each drink: soda, sports drink, and 2% chocolate milk. Remind students that we often drink more than 1 serving of a beverage or even a food. And when we do that, that adds a lot of extra sugar into our bodies that we don't need. So note, for chocolate milk, you first need to subtract out the number of sugars naturally found in milk, which is 11 grams. And you would use the 1% milk label. So for example here, so soda has 100 calories and there are 2 servings per bottle of soda. So students would need to do the math that 100 times 2 is 200 calories. They would also need to look at the number of added sugars, which is 27 grams, and take that number times 2, which is 54, and do the same for the sports drink and the chocolate milk. Note that 1% milk does not have any added sugars, but there are 11 grams of sugar naturally found in milk. So when they go to determine how many grams of added sugar in the chocolate milk, they're really only multiplying the 14 grams because that's the number of added sugar grams. And the answers to those are in your Classroom Connection session 8. So the body break is 12 days of fitness. So if you do the 1 full song, then that equals 3 body breaks. So have students act out the following movements to the tune of the 12 Days of Christmas. As in the original song, add the days into the song one at a time for a total of 12 verses each, one longer than the one before. So feel free to play instrumental music from online, because I think that would be very fun to engage students. So for example, on the first day of fitness, my teacher gave to me 1 stork stand. So the kids would balance on 1 foot. Second round, on the first day of fitness, my teacher gave to me 1 stork stand, 2 scissor kicks, which is crossing feet in front of the other while doing a jumping jack. Round 3 would be on the first day of fitness, my teacher gave to me 1 stork stand, 2 scissor kicks, 3 muscle poses. So you would go through and that would equal 3 body breaks. Very similar to the holiday song. So the Classroom Connection Go Active. The writing assignment is that students should consider that it's raining outside and that your friend just wants to watch TV all day. The student should write down why it's important to do Go activities and to give some suggestions for indoor Go activities. The classroom activity with the Classroom Connection is where to be active. So call out some locations. You can have some pictures, or have students find pictures of each of these locations: beach, mountains, pool, backyard, house, and park, and have students call out activities that they could do in each of those locations. And if you want, the kids could act those out too. The students could act those out. And just remind them that we don't have to do sports. We don't have to be on a football league or a soccer league to be active. There are just lots of fun ways that we can be active, and we just have to find those ways to make sure that we keep our heart healthy. So the body break is the healthy heartbeat. So if you do 5 rounds, this equals 1 body break. So students would imitate a healthy heartbeat with their bodies and their voices. So have students stand behind their desks and make sure that they have enough room to stretch out their arms at their sides without touching anyone. So ask students to name the organs that Go activities help: heart, brain, bones, muscles, and our lungs. They should have already learned this with a nutrition educator. Tell them that they are going to use their bodies and their voices to imitate the sounds of a healthy heart. Teach them the following 5 actions and have them move in sync. Squat down, hit the floor twice and say pump, pump. Hop up and down using both feet and say jump, jump. Clap your hands twice and say clap, clap. Side to side, slide, tap, tap. Hop on your left foot and then hop on your right foot and say beat, beat. Have students continually perform this until they have memorized the routine, and then perform the action rhyme at a faster pace and still students are moving very fast. Then slow the action rhyme down as their hearts get ready to rest. You may also wish to invite the students to create their own heart-healthy movements. We've also provided some optional body breaks to engage students in physical activity. This concludes the classroom connection sessions that coincide with the Nutrition Educator 9 sessions. Next, I'm going to show how to engage students during the Garden Educator sessions as they coincide with classroom connections. So the Garden Education will also have a roster, so please also complete that. And again, there may be more than 3 sessions in which the Garden Educator is going to engage students in the garden. So just record those here on the roster. We've intentionally put a lot in the classroom connections for the Garden Education sessions because there may be more than 3 garden sessions. Sorry, let me back up. We intentionally not put a lot in the classroom connections for the Garden Educator because there may be more than 3 in-garden sessions with the Garden Educator, and that may take up some extra time. So basically, you just engage students in the garden if you have time by quickly walking out and assessing how the garden's doing, and students can record in their journal. And the parent handouts, there's one for each of the 3 sessions, but again, there may be more than 3 sessions, but there's only 3 parent handouts, and those are listed in each one of these classroom connection sessions. And you then can also choose any body break for students to engage in. So these are there's not very much for you to lead students during the in-garden sessions. So for one of the sessions for in-garden, you will give the students a parent handout, keep it fresh, keep it safe. And if you want to engage them in the garden, you can. And then again, the body break is of your choosing. So this is where they can record updates on the plant profile or journaling page as they go out in the garden with you. So classroom connection session 2 with the Garden Educator. So just wanted to let you know that you will receive a teacher feedback form at the second to last Garden Educator session. And so we'll ask that you complete that and then turn that in at the end. This session focuses on gardening management and composting. So if your school or your cafeteria is interested in having a compost bin, this kind of goes through how to prepare for one, as well as the parent handout goes in some detail. And the Garden Educator will provide the parent handouts to you. And again, you can have students go out and make any observations in their student journal about the garden. So this is what the teacher feedback form looks like. And it's really important that you fill this out and get it back to us. Your feedback really influences and informs for our program and how to make updates and edits. So we really want to hear from you. The last classroom connection that coincides with the Garden education is that you'll receive a final parent handout, and this will be finding fresh food at the farmer's market. You can engage students in any body break they've already done or any of those optional ones. Students will receive a parent or they will receive a garden survey that they will complete with the Garden Educator, and the Garden Educator will take those and turn them into us so that we can see how the students enjoyed their time in the garden. And students also receive a graduation certificate for participating in the program. So again, I just want to reiterate that these classroom connections with the Garden Educator are very light in content because they are going to be spending some time in the garden with the Garden Educator. So that concludes the classroom connection with the Garden Educator. I also want to reinforce that if you have any questions about this program, again, I'm here at NC State, and so talk with your nutrition educator, talk with the Garden Educator so that they can relay any issues or concerns. The Garden Educator is the lead for the overall 4th grade program, and the Garden Educator, I've said that wrong. The Nutrition Educator is the lead for the overall 4th grade program, but the Garden Educator is really the lead for all of the in-garden sessions. So if you've got questions, let them know. They'll relay them to us, and we look forward to partnering with you and your students this year. Thanks.